The morning sun filtered through worn curtains as 16-year-old Andre stared at the ceiling of his small bedroom. The distant sounds of his father's tools clanging in the garage had served as his alarm clock for as long as he could remember. Today, though, the familiar noise filled him with dread rather than comfort. Andre swung his legs over the side of the bed and reached for the letter he'd hidden beneath his math textbook. He unfolded it carefully, reading the words again even though he'd memorized them days ago. "We are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as a finalist for the National Merit Scholarship." His hands trembled slightly. Most kids would have rushed to show such news to their parents, but Andre had kept it secret for nearly a week. In the Johnson household, talk of leaving town for college wasn't celebrated. It was treated like betrayal. The smell of breakfast drifted upstairs, and Andre tucked the letter into his back pocket. He couldn't put this off any longer. The scholarship interview was tomorrow, and he needed his father's signature on the permission form. The kitchen was warm and smelled like coffee and bacon. His mother stood at the stove, spatula in hand, while his younger sister and brother bickered over the last piece of toast. His father sat at the head of the table, newspaper spread wide, only his dark hands visible. "Morning," Andre said, his voice cracking slightly. His mother turned, offering a tired smile. "There he is. I was about to send the little ones up to drag you down." "Got lost in some homework," Andre lied, sliding into his usual chair. He accepted the plate his mother handed him but couldn't bring himself to eat. The letter seemed to burn against his back. His father lowered the newspaper, eyes narrowing slightly. William Johnson was not a tall man, but his presence filled any room. 30 years of working beneath car hoods had given him forearms like steel cables and hands permanently stained with engine grease. "You're looking jumpy this morning," his father observed, folding the paper with precision. "Something you want to tell us?" Andre's sister and brother suddenly went quiet, sensing the shift in atmosphere. His mother paused mid-motion, the spatula hovering above the pan. "Actually, yeah." Andre swallowed hard and pulled out the letter, setting it on the table. "I got some news last week. Good news." His father didn't reach for the paper. "What kind of good news comes in an envelope you hide from your family?" The kitchen grew uncomfortably silent. Even the old refrigerator seemed to hold its hum. "It's a scholarship," Andre said, pushing the letter toward his father. "National merit. If I get it, it covers tuition at any state school, full ride." His mother gasped, a smile breaking across her tired face. "Andre, that's wonderful." But his father's expression didn't change. He picked up the letter, scanning it quickly before setting it down again. "Engineering program," his father said flatly, 300 miles away. Andre nodded, hope and fear wrestling in his chest. "It's one of the best in the country, and with the scholarship we wouldn't have to pay anything. We," his father interrupted, "wouldn't have to pay anything because you wouldn't be going." The words landed like a slap. Andre's mother stepped forward, her hand on her husband's shoulder. "William, this is an opportunity. You should be proud." "Proud?" His father's voice remained low but sharp enough to make everyone wince. "Proud that my son wants to abandon his family? Abandon the business that's fed him his whole life?" "Dad, I'm not abandoning anything," Andre protested. "I just want to study, to make something of myself." His father's laugh held no humor. "Make something of yourself? And what am I then? Nothing? That's not what I meant. The Johnson Auto Shop has been keeping this family alive for 2 generations, his father continued, rising from his chair. "My father taught me everything he knew, and I've been trying to teach you. But you're always got your nose in those books, dreaming about leaving." Andre felt something inside him begin to break. This was the same argument they'd had for years, but today felt different. Final somehow. "I'm not like you, Dad," he said quietly. "I don't see cars the way you do. But I see buildings, bridges, structures. I want to build things that last. This family is what lasts." His father's fist came down on the table, making the plates jump. "Everything else is just chasing wind." Andre's younger siblings shrank in their chairs. His mother looked torn between intervening and staying silent. The interview is tomorrow, Andre said, pulling out another paper from his pocket. I need your signature on this permission form. His father stared at the form as if it were a snake. So you've already decided. I've decided to try, Andre corrected. I might not even get it. But you want to go. It wasn't a question. Andre met his father's gaze. For once, he didn't look away. Yes, I want to go. The kitchen clock ticked loudly in the silence that followed. His father's face shifted through emotions, anger, disappointment, something that might have been fear. If you walk this path, his father said finally, you walk it alone. Andre's mother stepped between them. William, you can't mean that. He's your son. My son would respect his family's needs. My son would honor his obligations. His father pushed back from the table. If he wants to pretend he comes from nothing so he can go be something else, then he is nothing to me. The words cut deeper than any physical blow. Andre felt tears threatening but blinked them back. One signature, he said, his voice surprisingly steady. That's all I'm asking for. His father turned toward the door. Make your choice, Andre. The shop or this fantasy. You can't have both. You're making me choose between my future and my family, Andre said, rising as well. How is that fair? Life isn't fair, his father snapped. The sooner you learn that, the better. His mother tried again. Please, both of you, let's just calm down and… I've been calm for years, Andre said, surprising himself with the heat in his voice. I've worked in the shop every weekend in summer since I was 12. I've kept my grades up, I've never been in trouble. And still, it's never enough for you. His father turned, something dangerous flashing in his eyes. Watch yourself, boy. Or, what? Andre challenged, 16 years of silent compliance finally crumbling. You'll kick me out? Go ahead. At least then I wouldn't have to pretend that what I want matters in this house. The kitchen went deathly quiet. Even his siblings seemed to be holding their breath. His father's voice, when it came, was ice. You want to leave so badly? Then leave, now. Andre's mother gasped. William, no. But something had broken between father and son, something neither knew how to fix. Fine, Andre said, surprised by his own calm. I'll go. He turned and walked upstairs, ignoring his mother's pleas and his siblings' confused cries. In his room, he grabbed his school backpack, emptying the books onto his bed. He stuffed in some clothes, his toothbrush, the dog-eared notebook filled with sketches of buildings he hoped to design someday. In his desk drawer, he found the money he'd saved, from odd jobs around the neighborhood, $116 in wrinkled bills. It wasn't much, but it was his. From his wallet, he took the photo of his family at the beach 3 summers ago. Everyone smiling, his father's arm around his shoulders. He hesitated, then slipped it into the backpack's front pocket. Downstairs, the argument continued. His mother's voice had risen, rare for her. His father's responses came in short, clipped sentences. Andre slipped past the kitchen door and toward the front of the house, but his mother spotted him. Andre, wait, she pleaded, rushing to him. Her eyes widened at the sight of his packed bag. You can't be serious. He made himself clear, Andre said, his voice thick with unshed tears. I'm nothing if I leave, so I might as well be nothing. Somewhere else. His mother grabbed his arm. He didn't mean it, you know how he gets. By dinner he'll… No, he won't, Andre said gently, looking past her to where his father stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, expression hard. He meant every word. She pressed something into his hand, her emergency credit card. Take it just until you figure things out. Andre tried to refuse, but she closed his fingers around it. I can't take your… You can and you will, she whispered fiercely. Call me tomorrow. Promise me. He nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. His younger siblings appeared behind his mother, confused and frightened. Where are you going? His 10-year-old sister asked, eyes wide. Andre knelt down. I have to go away for a while. Be good, okay? Both of you. Help Mom. His brother, only 8, launched himself at Andre, small arms wrapping around his neck. "Don't go." Andre hugged him tightly, then gently untangled himself. He stood, looking, once more at his father who hadn't moved from the doorway. "This is your choice," his father said, voice flat. Andre shouldered his backpack. "No. You made it for both of us." He walked out the front door into the bright morning sunshine, the sound of his mother's soft crying following him down the steps. The neighborhood looked the same as it always had. Houses lined up along the quiet street, a kid riding a bicycle in the distance, Mrs. Patterson watering her roses next door. But everything had changed. With each step away from the only home he'd ever known, Andre felt himself transforming into someone new, someone alone, adrift, but somehow free. He didn't look back until he reached the corner. When he finally turned, he half expected to see his father coming after him. Instead, he saw only the closed door of his childhood home. The scholarship interview was tomorrow. Somehow he would make it there. Somehow he would find a way forward. And someday, he promised himself as he walked toward the bus stop, he would return. Not as the boy they had cast aside, but as someone they couldn't ignore, someone they would have to reckon with. The first night was the hardest. Andre sat in a 24-hour diner until closing time, nursing a cup of coffee he could barely afford, trying to look like he belonged somewhere. When the tired waitress finally shooed him out at 2 a.m., he walked to the public park and found a bench partially hidden by overgrown bushes. Sleep came in fitful bursts, interrupted by passing cars, distant sirens, and the bone-deep chill that settled over him before dawn. He woke fully as the first light broke through the trees, his body stiff, his mind foggy with exhaustion. But today was the scholarship interview. He couldn't fall apart now. In the park's public bathroom, Andre splashed cold water on his face and tried to make himself presentable. His clothes were wrinkled from being stuffed in his backpack, but they were clean. He combed his hair with his fingers and practiced his smile in the spotted mirror. The hollow look in his eyes frightened him. "You can do this," he whispered to his reflection. "One day at a time." He arrived at the community center an hour early. The building was still locked, so he sat on the steps, reviewing his application, materials and rehearsing answers in his head. His stomach growled painfully, reminding him he hadn't eaten since yesterday's untouched breakfast. When the doors finally opened, Andre was the first one inside. The interview wasn't until 10 a.m., but at least he was warm now. He found the room and waited, watching as other candidates arrived with their parents. Well-dressed mothers and fathers giving last-minute advice, straightening ties, offering reassuring pats on shoulders. Andre sat alone, gripping his folder of documents so tightly his knuckles paled. A middle-aged woman with kind eyes approached him. "Are you here for the scholarship interviews?" He nodded, standing quickly. "Yes, ma'am. Andre Johnson. I'm Mrs. Reynolds, one of the committee members." She glanced around. "Are your parents parking the car?" The question hit like a sucker. Punch, "No, ma'am, they couldn't make it today." Something in his voice must have given him away because her expression softened. "Well, we're running a bit behind schedule. There's a cafeteria downstairs if you'd like to grab something while you wait." Andre's stomach chose that moment to growl, audibly. He flushed with embarrassment. Mrs. Reynolds smiled. "Actually, we have some refreshments set up for the candidates in the next room. Why don't you help yourself?" The refreshments turned out to be a spread of pastries, fruit, and coffee. Andre tried to eat slowly, forcing himself not to stuff his pockets for later. When his name was finally called, he felt almost human again. The interview room held 3 adults seated behind a long table. Mrs. Reynolds gave him an encouraging nod as he took his seat across from them. "So, Mr. Johnson," began an older man with wire-rimmed glasses, "we've reviewed your academic record. Quite impressive. Tell us why engineering appeals to you." Andre took a deep breath and began to speak. The words came easier than he expected, flowing from a place of genuine passion. He talked about bridges that had fascinated him since childhood, about sketching building designs during lunch breaks, about the community center he hoped to design for his neighborhood someday. "And where do you see yourself in 10 years?" asked the third interviewer, a woman with short gray hair. Andre hesitated. Yesterday, his answer would have included returning home with his degree, maybe even partnering with his father to expand the auto shop. Now, "In 10 years, he said carefully, "I want to be building structures that change communities for the better, places that bring people together, that last for generations." The interview lasted 30 minutes. When it ended, Mrs. Reynolds walked him to the door. "The permission form," Andre said suddenly, remembering. "My father didn't—" "Your school counselor called us this morning," Mrs. Reynolds said quietly. "She explained your situation and signed as your school representative. It's been handled." Relief washed over him. His counselor, Mrs. Torres, had always believed in him. "Thank you," he managed. Mrs. Reynolds touched his arm lightly. "Do you have somewhere to go, Andre?" The kindness in her voice nearly broke him. He nodded quickly, not trusting himself to speak. "Well, we'll be in touch within 2 weeks," she said. "Best of luck to you." Outside, reality crashed back. He had nowhere to go. His mother's credit card felt heavy in his pocket, but he couldn't use it. They would track him down, force him to return home on his father's terms. He wasn't ready for that. For 3 days, Andre existed in a strange limbo. He slept on different benches each night, washed in public restrooms, and rationed his money for one small meal a day. He spent hours in the public library, where it was warm and where no one questioned a black teenager quietly reading in the corner. On the 4th day, his luck ran out. A security guard shook him awake at 5 a.m., telling him he couldn't sleep in the park. Rain had started to fall, a cold spring shower that soaked through his clothes within minutes. Desperate, Andre found himself outside the community center again. It wouldn't open for hours, but the small awning at least kept the rain off. He huddled against the door, exhaustion finally overtaking his determination to stay strong. He didn't realize he was crying until he felt the tears mixing with raindrops on his face. "Young man?" A voice startled him. "Are you all right?" Andre looked up to see an elderly man with dark skin and white hair, holding an umbrella. The man wore the uniform of a janitor, keys jangling from his belt. "I'm fine," Andre said automatically, wiping his face, just waiting for the center to open. The old man studied him, taking in his damp clothes and the backpack clutched to his chest. At 5:30 in the morning, in the rain, Andre said nothing. "I'm Mr. Howard. I open this place up every morning," the man said, unlocking the door. "Come on in before you catch your death." Andre hesitated, then followed him inside. The building was dark and quiet. "Sit there." Mr. Howard pointed to a bench in the lobby. "I'll get you something dry." He disappeared down a hallway, returning minutes later with a towel and a sweatshirt that read, "Community Center Volunteer." "Thank you," Andre said, his voice hoarse. "You want to tell me why you're really here?" Mr. Howard asked, settling onto the bench beside him. Maybe it was exhaustion, or maybe it was the simple kindness in the old man's voice, but Andre found himself telling the truth. About the scholarship, the fight with his father, the nights in the park. As he spoke, Mr. Howard's expression grew increasingly troubled. "You've been homeless for 4 days, a boy your age?" He shook his head. "That won't do." "I'm fine," Andre insisted. "I just need to wait for the scholarship results, then what? You'll be homeless with a scholarship?" Mr. Howard stood. "Wait here." He disappeared again, this time for nearly 20 minutes. When he returned, a woman was with him, tall and dignified with silver streaks in her dark hair. "This is my wife, Louisa," Mr. Howard said. "She runs the youth program here." Louisa looked Andre over with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Franklin tells me you need a place to stay." "I don't want to be a bother," Andre began. "It's no bother." She cut him off. "We have a spare room. My grandson used it before he left for college last year. It's sitting empty now." Andre stared at them in disbelief. "You'd let me stay? You don't even know me." "I know enough, Mr. Howard," Franklin said firmly. "I know you're a young man with dreams bigger than your circumstances. I know what it's like to be on your own too young. We have conditions, Louisa added. You stay in school. You help around the house. And you work here at the center on weekends. We can always use another pair of hands. Hope, dangerous and fragile, flickered in Andre's chest. I can work. I'm good with my hands. That's settled then, Franklin said, as if they hadn't just offered to change a stranger's life. Louisa will take you home now. I've got floors to mop. Why? Andre couldn't help asking. Why would you do this for me? Louisa's expression softened slightly. Because someone did it for Franklin 40 years ago, and because someone should do it for you now. The Howards' home was small but immaculate, with books lining every wall and plants in every window. The spare room had a narrow bed, a desk, and empty shelves waiting to be filled. It's not much, Louisa said, showing him in. To Andre, it looked like a palace. That night, he slept in a real bed for the first time in nearly a week. Before drifting off, he took out his phone, dead for days now, and plugged it into the charger Louisa had provided. In the morning, he found the courage to turn it on. Dozens of missed calls and messages from his mother and siblings flooded the screen, none from his father. With trembling fingers, he typed a message to his mother. I'm safe. I have a place to stay. I'm still going to school. Please don't worry. He hesitated, then added, I love you. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived at the Howards' house. Andre had been accepted into the engineering program with a full scholarship. That night, Franklin raised a glass of sparkling cider and toast. To new beginnings, he said. Andre lifted his own glass, his heart full. The road ahead would be hard, but for the first time since walking out his father's door, he believed he might actually make it. To new beginnings, he echoed, and to the people who make them possible. The years passed like pages turning in a book, sometimes slowly, sometimes in a rush that left Andre breathless. College life was nothing like he had imagined. The classes challenged him in ways high school never had, pushing his mind to its limits. Engineering wasn't just about drawing pretty buildings. It was about understanding the forces that held the world together and the mathematics that described them. Many nights, Andre sat at his small desk in the dorm room he shared with 2 other scholarship students, rubbing his eyes at 3 a.m., wondering if his father had been right. Maybe he wasn't cut out for this. Maybe he should have stayed and learned the auto shop business. But each morning, he would rise before his roommates, splash cold water on his face, and start again. You're the hardest working student I've ever had, Professor Chen told him after class one day during his second year, but you look like you haven't slept in a month. Andre smiled tiredly. Sleep is for people who aren't carrying 18 credits and working 20 hours a week. The professor frowned. The scholarship doesn't cover your expenses? It covers tuition and basic housing, Andre explained. But there's still books, food, transportation. He shrugged. It's fine. I'm managing. 2 days later, Professor Chen called Andre into his office. I've recommended you for a research assistant position in the department. It pays better than whatever you're doing now, and the hours are flexible around your classes. Andre blinked in surprise. I'm only a sophomore. Don't those positions usually go to graduate students? Usually, Professor Chen agreed. But your work in my class shows you have the mind for research, and frankly, I'd rather you weren't falling asleep during my lectures, because you're working the midnight shift somewhere. The research position changed everything. For the first time, Andre wasn't just surviving, he was beginning to thrive. The work was interesting, analyzing data for the department's urban development projects. The professors treated him like a colleague rather than just a student, and the steady income meant he could occasionally send money home to his mother and siblings, though he never mentioned where it came from. His father still refused to speak to him, but his mother called every Sunday without fail. He asks about you, she said once, her voice soft. He doesn't think I notice, but when your name comes up, he listens. Andre gripped the phone tighter. Does he ever say anything? A pause. Not yet. But I see it in his eyes, baby. He misses you. Andre wanted to believe her, but the memory of that final morning still burned too brightly. Some wounds healed slowly, if at all. During his junior year, Andre met Dr. Rivera, a visiting professor from a major engineering firm in the city. Dr. Rivera was teaching a special seminar on sustainable urban development, and Andre's research advisor had recommended him for one of the limited spots.
"Your models are impressive," Dr. Rivera said after Andre presented his project on low-cost housing adaptations. "Most students design buildings that look good on paper, but would fall apart in a real neighborhood. I grew up in a neighborhood
where things fell apart," Andre replied. "I know what it's like when designers don't consider the actual people who'll live there." Dr. Rivera studied him with new interest. "We have a summer internship program. You should apply." The internship turned into a job offer for after graduation. The starting salary was more money than Andre had ever imagined earning. When he called Franklin and Louisa to tell them the news, they cried with pride. "We always knew you were destined for greatness," Louisa said, her voice thick with emotion. "I wouldn't be here without you," Andre told them, meaning every word. In the 5 years since they'd taken him in, they had become the foundation he built his new life upon. Franklin chuckled. "Nonsense. You had the talent and determination all along. We just provided a bed and some meals." "And love," Andre added quietly. "You provided that too." On graduation day, Andre scanned the crowd, knowing it was foolish to hope. His mother was there, beaming with pride, along with his siblings and the Howards, but the seat they'd saved remained empty throughout the ceremony. "He wanted to come," his mother whispered when she hugged him afterward. "He even put on his good suit this morning, but at the last minute..." She shook her head. "I'm sorry, baby." Andre nodded, swallowing his disappointment. "It's okay. I'm just glad you're here." His first years at Rivera and Associates flew by in a blur of projects, late nights, and growing recognition. Andre had a gift for design that incorporated both beauty and practicality, and his background gave him insights that his more privileged colleagues often missed. "People who've never worried about a leaky roof design different buildings," he explained once during a presentation. "We need to consider not just how a structure looks on day one, but how it will serve its community for decades." By his 5th year at the firm, Andre was leading his own team. By his 7th, he was the youngest partner in the company's history. His designs won awards, and his approach to community-centered development became a model for the industry. Success brought a sleek apartment in the city, clothes that fit perfectly, and financial security he'd once only dreamed of. But something was missing. The emptiness he'd carried since that morning in his parents' kitchen had never fully healed. During his 10th year at the firm, Andre received a call that changed everything. "Andre? It's Theo, your brother." Andre smiled at the sound of his brother's voice. Theo was in college now, studying business on a scholarship Andre secretly helped pay for. "Hey, little brother, how's campus life treating you?" There was a pause. "I'm not calling about school, it's Dad." Andre's grip tightened on the phone. "What about him?" "He had a stroke 3 days ago." "It's bad, Andre. The doctors say he might recover some function, but..." Theo's voice broke. "He can't work anymore, maybe not ever." The world seemed to tilt sideways. Despite everything, Andre had never imagined his father as anything but the strong, stubborn man who had shown him the door all those years ago. "Is Mom okay? Are you all okay?" "We're managing," Theo said, in exactly the same tone Andre had used so often in college. "But the shop's closed and the medical bills are piling up. Mom's working double shifts at the hospital, but it's not enough. I'm thinking about taking a break from school to help out." "No," Andre said immediately. "Don't do that. I'll help." "That's why I called," Theo admitted. "I didn't know who else to turn to." That night, Andre couldn't sleep. He stood at the window of his apartment, looking out at the city lights, thinking about the twists of fate that had brought him here. 10 years ago, he'd vowed to return home someday as someone they couldn't ignore. Now that day had come, but not in the way he'd imagined. The next morning, he walked into his partner's office. "I need to take some personal time. Family emergency." Dr. Rivera, now his mentor and friend, nodded. Take what you need. The Taylor project can wait. Actually, Andre said slowly, I was thinking about something else too. Remember that community revitalization initiative we've been discussing? I think I know where we should start. 2 days later, Andre stood on the street where he'd grown up, staring at the shuttered auto shop. The sign was faded, the windows dusty. Next door, his childhood home looked smaller than he remembered, the paint peeling, the front steps sagging slightly. For a moment, he was 16 again, walking away with a backpack and a broken heart. The memory still hurt, but the anger that had fueled him for so long had mellowed into something more complex. He took a deep breath and walked up those familiar steps. Before he could knock, the door opened. His mother stood there, her hair grayer now, new lines around her eyes. For a heartbeat, they just looked at each other. Then she pulled him into her arms, holding him so tightly he could barely breathe. You came home, she whispered against his shoulder. You finally came home. Over her shoulder, Andre could see into the living room where a man sat in a wheelchair, gaunt and diminished but with the same proud set to his jaw. Their eyes met across the years of silence. His father lifted a trembling hand in greeting. Andre had imagined this moment countless times. What he would say, how he would feel. But standing there in the doorway of his past, he realized that the script he'd prepared didn't matter anymore. What mattered was what happened next. He stepped across the threshold, ready to write a new chapter for his family. And for himself. The silence in the living room felt heavy enough to touch. Andre sat across from his father. The coffee his mother had pressed into his hands growing cold. His sister Zoe, now a beautiful young woman of 22, perched nervously on the arm of the couch. Theo hovered near the doorway, as if ready to intervene if things went badly. You look well, his father finally said, his voice raspier than Andre remembered, the words slightly slurred from the stroke. So do you, Andre lied politely. A ghost of a smile touched his father's lips. We both know that's not true. He gestured at the wheelchair with his good hand. Not exactly how I planned to spend my 60s. Andre didn't know what to say to that. 12 years of imagined conversations hadn't prepared him for the reality of seeing his father diminished like this. The doctors say with therapy, I might walk again, his father continued. But the shop, he trailed off, looking toward the window as if he could see the shuttered building from where he sat. I saw it on my way in, Andre said. Looks like it's been closed for a while. 3 months now, his mother confirmed, returning from the kitchen with more coffee no one would drink. Since your father's first mini-stroke, the big one came after. I tried to keep it going, Theo added, but I don't have Dad's touch with engines. Customers started going elsewhere. His father's jaw tightened, pride warring with reality. 50 years that shop's been in our family. My father built it from nothing. And now, he made a dismissive gesture with his good hand. Andre set his cup down carefully. What about the medical bills? Mom mentioned. We're managing. His father cut in sharply. We're drowning, his mother corrected with a directness Andre had rarely heard from her. The insurance covered the hospital stay, but the ongoing care, the medications, the therapy he needs. She shook her head. We had to take out a second mortgage just to keep up. Now we might lose the house too. The admission hung in the air between them. I can help, Andre said quietly. His father's head snapped up, eyes flashing with the old pride. We don't need charity. It's not charity when it's family, Andre replied, meeting his gaze steadily. Something shifted in his father's expression, a flicker of surprise, perhaps even respect. But before he could respond, the front door burst open, and Andre's youngest sibling, Naya, rushed in. Sorry I'm late. Professor moved the... She stopped short at the sight of Andre, her eyes widening. Oh my God, you're really here. She flung herself at him, nearly knocking him out of his chair. At 18, she was the spitting image of their mother, with the same warm eyes and quick smile. Hey, squirt, Andre said, hugging her back. Though, I guess you're not so little anymore. I'm in college now, she announced proudly. Pre-med. On scholarship, his mother added with unmistakable pride. The tension in the room eased slightly as Nia pulled up a chair next to Andre, bombarding him with questions about his life in the city. He answered as best he could, aware of his father, watching silently, taking in every word. Later, after dinner, Andre helped his mother with the dishes while his siblings got their father ready for bed, a nightly routine they had perfected over the past months. "It's hard on him," his mother said softly, handing Andre a plate to dry. "Not being able to provide anymore, not being the man he thinks he should be." Andre nodded, understanding more than she knew. "Has he said anything? About me coming back?" She smiled sadly. "He's still your father. Still stubborn as a mule. But having you here," she touched his arm, "it means more than he'll ever say." That night, Andre lay awake in his old bedroom, now Theo's room, though his brother had insisted Andre take the bed while he slept on an air mattress. The walls were different, posters of basketball players replacing Andre's old engineering sketches, but the feeling was the same. This had been home once. Could it be again? Not to live in, perhaps, but as a place to return to care about. The next morning, Andre rose early and slipped out before the others woke. He walked the 3 blocks to the auto shop using the spare key his mother had given him the night before. Inside, the familiar smells of oil and metal brought a rush of memories. His father standing over an engine, patiently explaining how each part worked together. Summer afternoons spent sweeping the floor, while dreaming of buildings that touched the sky. The arguments that grew more frequent as Andre's dreams diverged from his father's plans. Despite being closed for months, the shop was meticulously organized. Tools hung in their proper places, parts cataloged on shelves, the old leather-bound ledger still sitting on the counter where it had always been. Andre ran his hands over the workbench, feeling the grooves worn by decades of repairs. His grandfather's legacy, his father's life's work. He stayed there for hours, taking inventory, examining equipment, making notes on his phone. By the time he returned to the house, he had the beginnings of a plan. Over the next week, Andre settled into an unexpected routine. Mornings at the shop, assessing what could be salvaged. Afternoons making calls to his office, setting things in motion from afar. Evenings with his family, rebuilding bridges 12 years in the making. It wasn't easy. There were moments of tension, old wounds that still ached when touched. His father's pride remained a wall between them, cracked but standing. "I don't need you to save me," his father said one evening, after Andre mentioned some equipment he planned to replace. "I know you don't," Andre replied. "But maybe I need to try." Something shifted in his father's expression. "Why? After everything—" Andre considered his words carefully. "Because you taught me that family matters, even when it's hard." His father looked away, but not before Andre caught the sheen of tears in his eyes. 10 days after his arrival, Andre called a family meeting in the bureau living room. His mother looked worried, clearly expecting him to announce his return to the city. "I've been thinking about the shop," Andre began, "and about our family's situation." His father sat straighter in his wheelchair. "What about it?" "I'd like to reopen it," Andre said simply. Stunned silence greeted his words. "But you're an engineer," Theo said finally. "You build skyscrapers, not carburetors," Andre smiled. "Actually, I've never built a skyscraper. My specialty is community-centered development, projects that revitalize neighborhoods, create jobs, build something sustainable." He pulled out his tablet and passed it around, showing them the plans he'd developed over the past week. Not just for reopening the auto shop, but for expanding it, modernizing it. Adding a training program for local youth interested in automotive careers. "This neighborhood needs good jobs," Andre explained. "And there's a market for a shop with a solid reputation, especially one that specializes in both classic cars and newer hybrid models." "And where would the money come from for all this?" his father asked, his voice carefully neutral. "I've spoken with my firm. They're interested in launching a community investment initiative, and they've agreed to make this the pilot project. Andre met his father's eyes. The shop would stay in the family. You'd be the technical consultant teaching the next generation what you taught me. Theo could handle the business side if he's interested. And you? His mother asked softly. I'd oversee the project development, split my time between here and the city. Andre hesitated. If that's what everyone wants. His siblings erupted with questions and excitement, but his father remained silent, studying the plans with an unreadable expression. Later, after the others had gone to bed, Andre found himself alone with his father in the living room. The old clock on the mantel ticked steadily, marking time as it had throughout Andre's childhood. Why are you really doing this? His father asked finally. Andre took a deep breath. When I left here, I was angry. I wanted to prove you wrong, to show you I could make something of myself without following your path. He looked down at his hands. But the truth is, everything I've accomplished came from what you and Mom gave me. The work ethic, the attention to detail, the belief that what you build should last. His father was quiet for a long moment. I was wrong, he said finally, the words clearly difficult for him. To make you choose, to let you walk out that door. Andre's throat tightened. I could have stayed, found a compromise. No. His father shook his head. You were right to go, to follow your dream. He gestured to the tablet with the shop plans. And now you're bringing that dream back here, making something new from what was broken. It wasn't an apology, not exactly, but coming from his father, it was more than Andre had ever expected. So, Andre said carefully, is that a yes? To the project? His father almost smiled. On one condition. What's that? You let me teach you a few things about engines. Seems like something an engineer should know. Andre laughed, feeling something tight in his chest finally loosen after 12 long years. Deal, he said, offering his hand. His father took it, his grip still strong despite everything. Outside, the night was quiet, the street peaceful. But in that small living room, something momentous had happened. A family broken was beginning to heal. A legacy thought lost was finding new life. And Andre, who had left as a boy with nothing but dreams and determination, had returned as a man ready to build something that would truly last. 6 months could change everything. Andre stood across the street from the auto shop, taking in the transformation. The faded sign had been replaced with a sleek new one. Johnson & Sons Auto Works, serving our community since 1975. The building itself had been completely renovated, the old brick restored and cleaned, the windows replaced, the interior modernized with state-of-the-art equipment. But the biggest change wasn't visible from the outside. Andre checked his watch and smiled. Almost time. He crossed the street just as a yellow school bus pulled up to the curb. The doors opened and 15 teenagers spilled out, laughing and talking among themselves. They wore matching navy blue work shirts with the shop's logo embroidered on the pocket. Mr. Johnson, one of the boys called out, spotting Andre. Are we still taking apart that hybrid engine today? That's the plan, Dion, Andre confirmed, holding the shop door open as the students filed in. But remember, we observe first, then disassemble. The youth apprenticeship program had been Andre's idea, but his father had embraced it wholeheartedly. 3 afternoons a week, high school students from the neighborhood came to learn basic automotive skills, earn school credit, and get paid for their time. For many, it was their first job and an introduction to a potential career. Inside, the shop was buzzing with activity. 2 professional mechanics worked on customer vehicles in the main service bays. Theo moved between the front desk and the workshop, clipboard in hand, looking every bit the business manager in his pressed shirt and tie. And in the center of it all, holding court from his specially designed workstation that accommodated his wheelchair, was Andre's father. You're late, his father called out when he spotted Andre. But there was no heat in the words, just the comfortable teasing they'd developed over the past months. Had a meeting with the bank, Andre replied, joining. Him at the workstation where an engine sat partially disassembled. Everything's approved. His father raised an eyebrow. All of it? Every last cent, Andre confirmed. We can start next month. A rare, full smile spread across his father's face. The physical therapy had been working. He had regained some movement on his left side and could now stand for short periods with a walker, but nothing had helped his recovery more than having purpose again. Teaching these kids, being back in the shop, watching his family's legacy grow instead of fade away. While the apprentices gathered around the hybrid engine, Andre slipped into the small office at the back of the shop. He spread the bank documents on the desk, still amazed that it had all come together so quickly. The door opened, and his mother peeked in. She worked at the shop now, too, handling the books and customer service, her hospital shifts reduced to just 2 days a week. Is it official? She asked, her eyes bright with excitement. Andre nodded. We close on the Wilson property next week. Construction starts as soon as the permits come through. She pressed her hands together as if in prayer. I still can't believe it. A community center right here in our neighborhood. The community center had been phase 2 of Andre's plan, a natural extension of the work they'd started with the auto shop. The abandoned warehouse 2 blocks over would be transformed into a multi-purpose space with after-school programs, job training resources, and a small business incubator for local entrepreneurs. Your father's like a new man, his mother said, sitting on the edge of the desk. You know what he told me last night? That watching you work these past months has been the proudest time of his life. Andre swallowed hard. He said that? Mm-hmm. She smiled knowingly. He won't say it to your face, of course. Still too stubborn, but he means it. Before Andre could respond, there was a commotion from the main shop. They hurried out to find a news van parked outside and a reporter setting up a camera. What's going on? Andre asked Theo, who was watching from the doorway with an oddly guilty expression. Surprise? Theo shifted uncomfortably. I might have called the local news about the community center project. And about you. About me? Why would they care about Mr. Johnson? The reporter approached, hand extended. I'm April Wong from Channel 8 News. We'd love to interview you about your journey from homeless teen to successful engineer, and how you came back to revitalize your community. Andre froze. How did you know about? I told them, a familiar voice said. Andre turned to see Franklin Howard making his way through the shop, Louisa at his side. Hope you don't mind, son. Despite his initial discomfort, Andre found himself agreeing to the interview. They set up in front of the shop, the new sign visible in the background. The reporter asked thoughtful questions about his past, his education, and his vision for the community. What made you come back? She asked. After achieving so much success elsewhere, why return to a neighborhood many young professionals leave behind? Andre considered the question carefully. Because success isn't just about what you build for yourself, he said finally. It's about what you build for others. This neighborhood gave me roots, values, strength. I wanted to bring those things back and help them grow for a new generation. The interview concluded, but the reporter had one more request. Could we get a shot of you with your family? I understand they're all involved in the business now. Theo had already gathered everyone together, their mother beaming with pride, Zoe, who helped with marketing between college classes, Naya, home for the weekend from her pre-med program, the apprentice students, suddenly shy in front of the camera, Franklin and Louisa, who had become honorary grandparents to them all, and, in the center, in his wheelchair but sitting tall and proud, was Andre's father. As the camera rolled, Andre stood behind his father, one hand resting lightly on his shoulder. For a moment, he flashed back to that terrible morning 12 years ago, the door slamming behind him as he walked away with nothing but a backpack and broken dreams. Never could he have imagined standing here now, surrounded by family, building something together. Later, after the news crew had left and the apprentices had gone home, Andre and his father stayed behind to lock up. They moved through the familiar, closing routine in comfortable silence, checking tools, securing equipment, Turning off lights. So, his father said finally, as Andre helped him navigate the wheelchair through the door. Local celebrity now, are you? Andre laughed. Hardly. They'll forget all about it by next week. I don't think so. His father looked up at him, his expression serious. What you're doing here, it matters. People notice when someone comes back. To lift up their own. Andre locked the shop door, pocketing the keys. I had good teachers, he said simply. They made their way slowly down the ramp Andre had installed on his first day back. The evening was warm, the street quiet except for children playing in the distance. I've been thinking, his father said as they reached the sidewalk, about that day, when I told you to leave. Andre tensed slightly. They hadn't spoken directly about it, not in all these months. I was wrong, his father continued, his voice rough with emotion. The wrongest I've ever been about anything, and I've regretted it every day since. Andre stopped walking, moved to face his father. Dad, let me finish. His father held up a hand. I was scared. Scared you'd leave and never come back. Scared you'd find out there was a bigger world out there than what I could show you. And instead of being proud that you could see further than I ever did, I tried to clip your wings. He shook his head. What kind of father does that? A human one, Andre said softly. We all make mistakes. Some mistakes can't be fixed. His father looked up at him, his eyes bright with unshed tears. But you fixed this one. You came back even though I gave you every reason not to. Andre knelt down beside the wheelchair, eye to eye with the man who had shaped him in ways both painful and profound. I came back because of you, not despite you. Everything I learned about hard work, about standing my ground, about building things that last, that came from you. His father reached out then, something he rarely did, and pulled Andre into a fierce hug. I'm proud of you, son, he whispered. So damn proud. The words Andre had waited half his life to hear. That night, long after his father had gone to bed, Andre sat on the front porch of his childhood home, looking up at the stars. In a week, he would return to the city to wrap up some projects and pack his apartment. His firm had agreed to let him open a small satellite office here to oversee the community center construction and development. He was coming home for good. His phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Rivera. Saw your interview online. Board is impressed. They're talking about expanding the community investment initiative to 5 more cities. Andre smiled. 1 small auto shop, 1 family healed, 1 community center, and now the possibility of so much more. 12 years ago, he'd left this porch with nothing but anger and determination. Now he returned with something far more valuable. The power to build, to heal, to transform, not just buildings but lives, including his own.